Hi everybody, this is EDL856 School Community Relations. This is our first module, Various Communication Forms and Personal Video, and my name is Renee Burns. Alright, so here is my family of 4. We love to travel, especially going to the national parks. I'm a Fort Hays graduate, and my 2 boys are loving the Chiefs. That game this week was a nail biter, and I consider myself to be a joy spreader. I love to make people happy around me and to spread joy. And the other icon I chose on here is I cannot play any musical instruments, and I don't have a particularly lovely voice. I just really enjoy all kinds of music and going to concerts. So here are my students, and not all from the past as well, but I am a 2nd and 3rd grade teacher. However, I would consider myself a cheerleader for all that I come in contact with, not only students, but other teachers, anyone else in my profession. I am a relationship builder of all stakeholders. I'm a knowledge seeker. I firmly believe in lifelong learning, and I am a facilitator of brilliant young minds. And I would definitely be considered as the problem solver in my building. Lots of colleagues come to me if they are struggling with anything and they just need innovative thinking. I tend to be the one that they come to for that. I enjoy challenge. So, content questions. So we are to discuss the forms of communication that we use within our profession. So with my students, definitely to prioritize in order here, definitely giving feedback, encouraging through verbal communication would be definitely what I use the most. And then I am a very nonverbal person. It's very difficult for me not to use my hands as I'm talking. So just my expressions, any nonverbal communication, my kids get a lot of that. The Seesaw app, if you're not familiar with that, it is kind of like a learning portfolio, but it's also have so many facets of the app. But communication is a huge portion of that through students and parents. We'll get to that in a second, but I do communicate a lot with my parents through the students through the Seesaw app. I create a morning news segment for the entire school as a daily morning news segment, and that is a great way that we communicate our expectations throughout the building. We communicate celebrations and like our star students, which we call SOAR students. So just reminders, celebrations, things like that are going out, positive self-thinking, just lots of different strategies that we teach and communicate through the morning news. I also communicate a lot through Padlet and Flipgrid with my students. Moving on to parents, again, the Seesaw app. With the parent side of things, you can use it as kind of the reminder app or Bloom's app, but I definitely use it to communicate one-on-one with parents, kind of like an email system through the Seesaw app, but then also just celebrations. And that what's really cool is the parents can talk directly to the students through the Seesaw app. So there's lots of different ways that communication happens through Seesaw. Morning news, again, is the same segment that's sent to students that's also sent to parents so that they are aware of the expectations and the things that we're working on within the school. Email, text. I do give out my personal cell phone number to parents just because I want them to be able to reach me when they have concerns, and I just like to deal with it right then and there. So definitely text messages and then phone calls, and then we have a website as well. Colleagues. Majority of the day-to-day interaction would be oral conversations, but also nonverbal. We do communicate a lot through emails and text messages and written. We also have a Facebook staff page, like it's just a private page for our staff, and that's a good way for us to communicate more of the social interactions and positive vibes sent out through that. And then other stakeholders would be majority of it's through emails, phone calls, and our website. So through our resources, we are to consider how we would, make an unforgettable introduction in the future as a building leader. And so I will certainly give it a second thought. I'd never really thought about how mundane and forgettable it is to say I'm a 2nd and 3rd grade teacher at O'Laughlin. It's just really kind of forgettable. And so I will give it a second thought most certainly in the future. I think it's really neat to think, if I am a new building administrator, I think I would think about personalized introductions for staff. And in the past, when we've had new principals come in, I don't think they've ever formally introduced themselves to parents or students or the community. So I think that'd be really important to make a video message or maybe a pic collage of some different things so that you can formally introduce them. I think a video message would be ideal just because they could hear your voice, they'd see your personality through your video. And so the students definitely a physical appearance in the building and showing up in their classrooms, being there so that they can build that relationship with me and the community as well. So I also think it'd be really neat to encourage staff to introduce themselves to me differently. So considering, if they're introducing themselves to me, not just saying I teach 2nd and 3rd grade, but what do they bring to the staff? I consider myself to be a problem solver. So what strength do they bring, and how can they introduce themselves with a little more flair so that I don't forget them? We do not have any official district policies on communicating with one another written within the board policies. However, I will say that many of our committees have communication norms, like not interrupting one another. How do we communicate effectively so that we can accomplish our goals and objectives? But there are some things that we use, like Textcaster through the district for emergencies or just reminders. We have the website, the emails. For if we're going to be absent, or professional development communication would all go through Frontline, and then Zoom. Obviously, everyone's using Zoom now through the pandemic. Building-wide, all of us use Seesaw as a communication tool, and it's not just the teachers, but also like speech, special ed, all of the specials teachers communicate through Seesaw. Again, our Facebook staff page is more of our social interactions. Emails, GroupMe is a great way for us to communicate through, and then Zoom as well. For this assignment for Module 1, the correlation standard, with the review of the 3 relevant articles, we learned alternative approaches for introductions and making first impressions. This module allowed us to communicate previous professional experiences with multiple forms of communication among all stakeholders. We then reviewed district policies regarding effective communication within the professional setting. It is definitely relevant. As a building leader, making a first impression is critical, not only with your staff, but among all stakeholders. Administrators communicate with stakeholders through a variety of avenues, and it is imperative that this is done effectively. To increase the engagement and relevance to these encounters, administrators should consider how they introduce themselves and their explanation of their responsibilities within their profession. And finally, my personal reflection, I had never given much thought on how I share my profession with others or how I introduce myself. It's pretty boring just to say I'm a teacher. But I agree that simple, mundane introductions are forgotten quickly. So in the future, I will consider how I describe my profession and attempt to spark intrigue and interest to communicate my daily interactions with my students. Following these simple suggestions will be beneficial as a building leader. And that's all I have for Module 1. I look forward to learning alongside all my peers, and I hope you all have a lovely week. Thank you.